Hello, everybody. Welcome to our fifth episode of Coach's Corner, where your world's favorite CX coaches, or if not your favorite, at least the most passionate CX coaches in the world, are here to talk about and talk to different coaches in different disciplines and how they develop people and how they coach teams and individuals. And we're super lucky today to have the famous Brian Riley. And when I say the famous, maybe not Brian, but definitely the Riley family who what I think 77 years the Riley family has been leading the West Point hockey organization as a head coach. Is that true, Brian?
You're close. It's 75 years, and I don't consider myself famous. Maybe my dad, who coached for 36 years there, and he was a coach of the first U.S. team that won the gold medal in 1960. So, yeah, he was the famous Riley. I'm just lucky to kind of follow in his footsteps.
Well, you picked up some tidbits along the way. You were probably, Brian, well coached. Because I would love for you in your introduction to our audience today to maybe share a little bit about how we met. I was inspired by you. We were both talking at my high school, Don Bosco Prep, and you were the keynote speaker, and it was extremely impressive. And for our audience, I want to let you know I was introduced to Brian even before we met through an article that I read from the national championship women's volleyball coach of Penn State, who wrote this meaningful and letter about how he inspired her and her team, and that helped them not just win a national championship, which means she's a pretty good coach, but actually change their lives, Brian. So that's huge. I know you're humble guys, so you're probably not going to brag as much as I'll brag about you, but if you can share a little bit on your intro background, what you're up to today, and even how
Yeah.
we met, Brian.
So, like you said, Dan, you and I connected at the Don Bosco Leadership and Character Day. A good friend, mutual friend of ours, Jimmy Fortescue,
Absolutely.
just an amazing guy, another fellow Don Bosco alum, told me about the day that they were having and asked if I would talk because leadership to me is really, really important. And I've been able to kind of mold my talks about leadership through the eyes of two players that I coached that were killed in action. And it just so happened that one was Major Thomas Kennedy, who went to Don Bosco as well. And so anytime I have an opportunity to talk about who I call TK and Heinze, Derek Hines, I would go to the top of a mountain to tell their story, right? As a head coach at West Point, I had a lot of responsibilities, but honestly, I felt that one of my most important responsibilities was to make sure that the legacy of Tommy Kennedy and Derek Hines live on. And so I just retired recently, and even just talking at Don Bosco, it just kind of reinforced to me, hey, even though I'm not coaching anymore, it doesn't mean that I can't continue to tell their story, right? And so
Yep.
that's kind of my plan to talk to teams, because everybody's a team. I don't care if you're an athletic team or a business team. We're all part of a team, and leadership is such a big part of building a successful team. So I'm excited to
Yep.
be able to do it. And I was really excited to have the opportunity to speak at Don Bosco.
Yeah, and great to talk to you today and get some tidbits and words of wisdom from you around coaching and comparing coaching of hockey to how we're coaching CX agents around the world. Funny
Yeah.
story, Brian, you brought up Jim Fortescue. When you do a leadership and character day, you have to politic, you have to fight, you have to find a way to get someone like Brian Riley to be your keynote speaker. And your passion for the topic and the TK Foundation made it a little bit easier for Jim. But I will tell you, when on the opposite side, when you went to school with Jim and he knows you and he knows your character, I actually had to fight to get included on the agenda. I politicked my butt off and I told him, you're not going to regret it, Jimmy. Put me on the agenda. You got to have me on the agenda. And he kept saying, no, 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 no. And then finally, he said, "All right, Dan, we had one
Yeah.
dropout. I could let you in." So you and I had different opposite approaches to getting up there that day.
Well, he's such an amazing person, and I've said it to him more than once. I am so grateful that TK, who Tommy Kennedy, we all kind of call him TK. I am so grateful that TK connected me with the Fortescue family, the McGee family, the McClinsky, the Don Bosco family, right? And
Yes.
I feel really, really grateful to recently have had the opportunity to get to know so many of those wonderful people that you already know them as your friends.
Absolutely. And now the McCann family too. I'm looking forward to
Yeah, yeah,
continuing that
yeah,
relationship,
yeah,
Brian. Hey, so Brian, getting into it just from a background perspective, right? And
yep.
you were a little probably jaded. Maybe you got some early bias going into your youth. But tell me about coaching. Why do
Mhm.
you love coaching, Brian?
Yeah. So, well, to give the folks an idea, my dad was a coach at West Point for 36 years. When we were all growing up, being around my dad, obviously, we saw his passion for coaching, and I think more importantly, when I say we, I talk about my three older brothers and my younger sister. We saw his passion for coaching, but we saw how he could impact young people, right? And it was just amazing. Honestly, like growing up, now again, my dad, gold medal coach, played in the Olympics, so many. He was a great player at Dartmouth. So I used to wonder, people would come over the house and they'd see the pictures and they'd be, hey, does he have a gold medal? And I'm like, yeah, do you want to see it? And of course, everybody would want to see it.
Yeah.
So I'd go up to my mom and dad's room, open my dad's top drawer, lift up his t-shirts, pull out the gold medal. That's
Whew.
where he kept it. Bring it down to show my buddies. And always on my way down, I would say, why does dad stay at West Point? Like, why doesn't he go to a big hockey school? But then having sat kind of where he sat, now I know why he stayed. Like the opportunity to coach and to impact young people's lives, especially at West Point, where you are playing a small role in helping to shape and develop them to be future leaders of our country, be people that are going to lead this nation's sons and daughters. So yeah, like coaching was just something, and I wasn't the only coach in the family. Like my brother Rob was a head coach at Army before me. My brother Jay was an assistant coach at Cornell and Brown. So coaching is kind of in the genes, but really for me, I came home spring break, my senior year in college at Brown University, and my mom said, "Hey, Bri, what do you want to do?" And I remember thinking, why is she asking me that? Like, I have two brothers coaching, my dad's a coach. I'm like, I want to coach, Mom. And then it hit me, I was the fourth boy. She was hoping for a doctor or a lawyer. And here I go and say, I want to coach, right? But right then, my dad looked at me and said, Bri, I'm going to give you one bit of advice. And I remember thinking, I've got to get a piece of paper. Like he's going to give me this
Yeah.
special power play or some type of strategy. He said, no, you don't need to write anything down, Bri. You just need to remember this. You need to always show your players that you care for them more as people than you do as hockey players. And if you do that, you will create the power of one. And when you have the power of one, you can climb any mountain together. You can overcome any obstacle. So from that point on, I think that was the foundation, that was the most important leadership lesson, piece of advice that I had ever heard. And I just kind of built my foundation in coaching off of that advice.
I love it. I love it. And Brian, one of the things that got us so geeked out and why we are actually the most passionate, we're probably not the favorite CX coaches in the world, but we are the most passionate is
Yeah.
because we know people are capable of breaking through barriers, and they're usually barriers either they put on themselves or others force on them. And a really good coach, right? We say every champion
Yeah.
has a coach, Brian, and
Yeah.
and a really good coach helps people, break through and understand how to get to that next level of performance, especially as a team player, the way you've developed the
Yeah.
boys over the years.
No, no, for sure. Like Dan, like I was a hockey coach of a team at West Point for the
Right.
last 33 years, right? But within that team are individuals. So as coaches, you can never lose sight because every individual is different, right? What
Yep.
might motivate you might not motivate the next person. So as coaches, we have to figure that out. And that doesn't mean that we compromise our goal or our standards or our values, right? But our job as coaches is to try to elevate the performance of our players to the highest level that they can get, right? And they have to help that, right? Like you heard me say, I think Don Bosco a couple of weeks ago when I was talking about TK would never settle, right?
Right.
I tell our players, don't settle. And by settling, I mean in school, if you are capable of getting a B plus, then get the B plus. Don't just settle for the B, right? And
Right.
same thing from a hockey standpoint. Like I know it's a kind of an old Army ad term, but be all you can be. Like we want to make sure that our players are the best that they can be.
Yep. Yeah, and Brian, we have a saying in our house when the kids were growing up is you're going to be there anyway, so why not be great?
Yes, yes.
You
The
know?
pursuit of excellence in everything you do every day.
Yeah.
Like we went down to with our team a few years back, and we were in Fort Bragg, and we were at the special forces compound. And like all I can say for me, as I was walking around that compound and looking at these men and women that are special operators, I felt like I was at an NHL All-Star game, right? Like these are the best of the best. And I remember asking one of them, like you guys are the best at like how do you what keeps driving you? And he said it's a pursuit of excellence in everything we do every day. And yeah, that's something that we kind of brought back to our hockey program, and we had it out there so our guys saw that every day. Pursuit of
Yeah.
excellence in everything you do. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And Brian, I knew coming into today, I was going to get a lot of passion and I was going to feel the passion. But I'm going to tell you, one of the things I feel right now is conviction, right? And I just get that as you speak to me. And it's really neat. I'm actually convicted right now. I'm going to go back to my product team this afternoon. And AI coaching is all about coaching individuals and teaching them how to perform effectively and then better and optimize performance. And we're spending a lot of time now thinking about coaching the coaches, right? And the thing that you like crystal clear to me on this call is, Dan, if you're going to coach the coaches, teach them how to coach a team. Think
Yes.
about the team in these contact centers. Think about the team as they develop these people. I just think that's awesome, Brian. I love your conviction.
No, because Dan, like as coaches, we're the ones that motivate the team, right?
Yeah.
And it's a powerful thing when you can motivate a team, and like I talked to earlier, and create that power of one. Because when you have that power of one, the sky's the limit. The
Yeah.
sky's the limit. So yeah.
I love it. Yeah, and look, I told you, one of the reasons we got into SimTrain and just AI coaching in the first place. But, one of the things that inspired us to do this podcast is we started observing the definition of coaching at different of our clients, right? And every client had a different definition, right? It could have been, skills-based coaching. It could be leadership coaching, career coaching, right? There's so many different things and different ways that they would position and talk about coaching. And Brian, from your perspective, and it might be embedded in that power of one, how did you
Yep.
focus on, the difference between building that team and that core versus developing the skill sets of the players so they can compete at the highest levels and compete for national championships as an individual contributor?
Yeah. So I think it gets back to that first bit of advice that I learned from my dad. Show your players that you care for them more as people than you do as hockey players. Once people know that you truly care about them, then they are willing to run through a wall for you, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I'm talking about elevating care to love. Like, love is the most powerful thing, right? I think if you walked into our locker room at West Point and if you asked our players, "Hey, did Coach Riley care about you? Did he really love you?" They would say, "Absolutely." And honestly, if any of them have hesitated, I would be horrified. I would be horrified because,
That's awesome.
yeah, like I think that's where it all starts. And so for me to have 30 different players, I love them all. Now that didn't mean, and it doesn't mean that with your teams, you still have to hold them accountable. You have to hold them to a standard, right? That doesn't mean that you don't love them. Like that's tough love sometimes. Like where I
Yep.
said I could walk in and tell my players, all of my players, that I love them. Tomorrow I could go in and kick them all in the butt, right?
I
That's
love it.
love. That's
Yeah,
love,
you got
right?
it.
And so I just think that's the neatest thing about being on a team. And again, when I talk about team, I'm talking about the coaches that you got. Like we're all part of a team, whether it's on a hockey rink, whether it's in the business world, like you name it. So I just think the caring piece, like making sure the people that you work with truly know that you care about them. And it's you know what, actually, in one of my last conversations with Tommy Kennedy, we were talking about culture, and
Yep.
he said, Coach, like I knew when I sat in the locker room at West Point, like I had this guy's back, he had my back. He said, but when I joined the ultimate team, meaning the U.S. Army, he goes, it's different. I said, what do you mean it's different? He said, well, Coach, he said, when we go out to fight, and I'm talking about like military, like going out to
Right.
fight, he said, we don't fight with the guy on my left or the woman on my right. He said, we don't fight with them, we fight for them.
Wow.
And so if any organization can create a culture of, hey, I don't work with this guy, I work for this guy. And if our company all has that same philosophy, think how even the guy on the top of the food chain, if somebody went up to him and said, hey, I met somebody that works for you, and that CEO came back and said, no, I work for him. And
Right.
think about how powerful that is, that everybody believes that they work for each other, not with each other. So
Yeah, Brian, I just came back from a big national global conference in the contact center space and got a lot of compliments on my team and the quality of the organization at SimTrain. And
yep,
I did have a few people yell at me because they're like, "Hey, Dan McCann, you told me you worked for Cali Sarum." I said, "I do." And they said, "But you're the CEO." I said, "That's why I work for Cali and I work
yeah,
with other people here too, Brian." So
yes,
absolutely.
absolutely,
I hope I can live that just a little bit on what you're sharing. And you talked about love. You know, when I was up in front of the room at Bosco, Teddy Bias, you had
yep,
mentioned the head of the Leonidas Foundation, and he started that foundation in honor of his son, who had passed away a little bit early. He was sharing his story. And I said to the boys, I said, guys, look, and it's an all boys school for our audience. And I said that one of the hardest things is for a man to look at another man in the eyes and say, I love you. And I challenge you guys to do that and think about that because there's a strong power in love. And I said, Teddy, I want you to know, just hearing that story, I want you to know I love you right now. And so
yeah,
yeah, so that's a great entree, probably even into talking to about our sponsors, who the Leonidas Foundation and the TK Foundation, Brian, are our sponsors. So, Leo is, leadership,
yep,
entrepreneurism, and opportunity. And I got involved with them the same way I forced Jimmy to get me involved with the TK Foundation. Was I called him up and said, I want in. This is awesome.
yeah,
I want in. And
yeah.
I've been speaking to the kids at Bosco for a few years about entrepreneurialism, and it's just an amazing program. I wouldn't mind if you shared a few words on our other sponsor for today, the TK Foundation.
Yeah, so obviously my connection with Tommy Kennedy was recruiting him to West Point. And anytime I talk to him, I tell people like he was one of my guys. He was one of my guys. And, you know, August 8th, 2012, he was killed in action. And I just really feel very strongly that it's part of my responsibility to make sure his legacy continues to live on. And to be able to do that through the TK Scholarship Fund and work with so many wonderful people, TK's family, his wife Cami, Jimmy Fortescue. It even though TK isn't here, he is still impacting people's lives, and so I'm honored to play just a small role in helping the team make sure that TK is never forgotten. And so,
Brian,
yeah,
you moved me in the first 30 seconds I met you. And it might have been 60, right? It might have been
Yeah.
60 seconds or 30, but you did a gesture. I'm not sure if it'll play out nearly as powerful on video and camera as it did in person, but I know you remember how you moved me because I told you you did a gesture with your arms. Can you share that with the audience and what
Yeah.
you're all about?
So I have two, to the people that don't know, I have two bracelets on my wrist. They are KIA bracelets, which means killed in action bracelets. One is Major Thomas Kennedy, and the other is First Lieutenant Derek Hines, two of my guys that I recruited and coached at West Point. And I tell people that, hey, I didn't like to lose. No player or coach likes to lose. I wasn't afraid of losing a hockey game. My biggest fear was losing another player because, as you can see, I only have two wrists. I don't have a third wrist, right? So I'm reminded every day, Heinz and TK, I never take these off. But yeah, I remember telling you that. And I think a lot of people probably look at these and they're like, you've got medical bracelets, or they don't really realize what they are. And then if I'm able to talk to them about the meaning of the people on the bracelets, that helps their legacy to live on.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they are medical bracelets, keeping the heart pumping.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So we talk a lot about love, we talk about
Yep,
caring, and we talk about that unit of one, Brian, and
yep,
pulling a team together. Let's talk a little bit about technology, right? And
yeah,
this family business for 75 years, I'm
yep,
sure you either you've seen the technologies change over the
yeah,
years or you've participated in it or heard about it, right? So,
yeah.
we're bringing new technologies to the global contact center all the time and helping develop people and giving them the ability to perform better and the ability to break through barriers. As it comes to hockey, what were some of the technology advancements that you really geeked out about, maybe in the last 20 years of your career, Brian?
Well, that's exactly right. Like probably one of the biggest changes in our sport has been through the technology of the game. Like just even from a recruiting standpoint, like not having to go, like all the games you can watch, sit at home and be on your computer and watch games in Canada or any state in the country. But then when you break it down even more so through individual video sessions, right, to be able to show players, and then you factor in the strength and development piece, like
Yeah.
I am not a tech guy. Like I was lucky to be surrounded by some really, really smart people. But I will say this, like technology is not going anywhere. So you either adapt or you're going to get run over. You're going to get passed by, right? So
Right.
I don't care what world you're in. Technology is something that will help you elevate your team and the success that your team can have. Because
Right.
if you're not doing it, the team that you're competing against is certainly doing it, right?
Heck yeah.
So, really, really important technology.
Yeah, and as the founder of SimTrain, I'm definitely not a technical founder, so I definitely understand where you're coming from, and I'm going up against companies that are led by technical
Yep.
founders, and
Yep.
the quality of the team around me is what keeps our technology, in the forefront, and pushing the envelope there, and having the team, really do that, and talking about that, in your mind, and I think you might have answered this already a little bit. I'm just curious when you look at the mental game versus the physical game, right? And you're
Yeah.
taking kids. I watched a video of one of your teams that competed deep into the playoffs in a deep, deep
Yeah.
run. And it wasn't a very good team during the season, right? And
Yeah.
and that video
Yeah.
was all about how they turned it around. Can you talk to the audience just a little bit about the difference or the impact of the mental game that ties into the physical capabilities of
Yes.
achievement and performance?
Sure. Like I have this saying with our players, half of being good is thinking you're good, right? So during the course of a season, guys lose their confidence, and I don't. There's no coach that has the ability to just come in with a bag of confidence and say, "Here, Dan, like here's your confidence back," right? It starts with the mental game. Like you have to think you're good. So in our cases, our guys are Division I athletes. I would tell them, you didn't get here without having talent, right? So
Right.
it's kind of interesting, the physical part of the game, like people work on, you're in the weight room, you're on the ice, but the mental part of the game, which is probably the most important part of the game, a lot of people don't spend any time on that, and so I think it's critical for the success of any team that you are you have the ability to have mental training for your players, for the team. And like we were really fortunate at West Point to have, they call the Center for Enhanced Performance, where they have mental coaches. Like they would come up and coach the team, like, or individuals could sign up and spend time.
Yep.
And it just always kind of boggled my mind that one of the most important part of any team is the mental part, and we don't spend the time with it that we need to, right?
Yep. Yeah, and I'll never forget a young man who's now a CEO of his own company. He was working for me and he was really struggling. And I brought him into my office and I said, "Hey, I know what your problem is." And he's like, "What?" I said, "It's confidence." I said, I watched you and your bursts of excellence that you do better when you're excellent and you continue to do better. And then when you go down, you go lower because your success is what drives your confidence. You have it backwards. You
Yeah.
have to be confident every day and you have to know what you're doing and that confidence is what begets your success and I hope it's a little piece of what helped him in his career and advance but I'll never forget that, and as you were bringing that up and talking about the confidence of these players, Brian, that's awesome.
Yeah, half of being good is thinking you're good, right?
Right. We're
And so
knowing it.
yeah, I would
Right.
always harp on that and try to pound that into them, because like I said, we can't just give people confidence. I mean, we can try to build them up, but
Yep.
ultimately it's going to come from within them to really gain that confidence back.
Yeah. And it's kind of funny. One of our friends and colleagues, 15-year professional baseball player, he calls games and he couldn't make it that day because he was calling a game in Philadelphia. But I was going to share with the kids if he was there, the differences. And I play some tennis with him, even
Yep.
now because we live near each other. And I'm not a good tennis player, but it doesn't impact my confidence. Like I think I'm good. But
Yeah.
it's so funny
Yeah.
when I play with this guy and he's the most humble human being you're ever going to meet. Like the difference between me and him is like I think I'm good at things and it makes me better because I think that, but he knows he's good. Like he knows he's
Yeah.
capable. He knows what he can accomplish. I love watching that in his eye. You could see confidence in his eyes, Brian, when you're
Well,
competing.
well, and you just said it. Like you think you're good at tennis. Like imagine having a team where everybody thinks they're good.
Right.
Like imagine having a team where 20 people, well, let's say 10 know they're good, another 10 think they're good, and then the other 10 don't think they're good.
Right.
Like you're not going to be a successful team.
Yep, that's awesome. And Brian, look, a couple times during this conversation, I was about to call you Tommy. I say that as the highest compliment I could possibly give you on the way you were speaking just about him and speaking about the things that drive you. Um,
Yeah.
would you mind sharing, with this group? I know we can read about you a lot because of
Yeah.
there. Maybe a fun fact that no one's gonna know. Like, what is something about Brian Riley that would maybe shock the audience of players that played for you or see?
Oh, so what people don't know, probably growing up, my dad knew a producer in New York City, so I was on two commercials as a kid. So you know
Nice.
what? Maybe I should have stayed in the TV business, but yeah,
Well, you said I was fabricating the famous Brian Riley in the beginning, but I
yeah,
was
yeah.
clear. That was my moment of clairvoyancy, I think, Brian.
No, actually, one of them was I think for Glad Baggies, and they had a bunch of kids from the neighborhood, and one of those you'd go back and forth, and you'd be going around in a circle, and they had me bite a donut after every time, and like eventually I lost the donut, so that didn't make the clip on the TV, but it just proved it's not what you know, it's who you know. My dad knew
Yeah.
a TV guy from New York City, so So
And I
yeah.
thought I recognized you a few weeks ago. The other commercial was the Gerber. You were the Gerber baby. Is
Yeah,
that true?
yeah. Actually, it was an aspirin commercial, and I was jumping up and down with another girl screaming and yelling, and I think our TV mom had a bad headache. So, yeah, but
Oh, that's awesome.
that's something that nobody would know.
Hey, tell us about your favorite movie and how come?
Well, so, and I don't know if you would consider a movie, it's a series like Band of Brothers. So, obviously, being at West Point all my life, being around all these young men and women that served in the military. But my dad was a Navy pilot, flew in the Pacific, and just have the utmost respect for the men and women that serve and have served. But the greatest generation, right? Like when you watch that, the Band of Brothers, like for me, I'm always watching it kind of from a coach's lens, and it goes back to what Tommy said, TK said. Like when we go out and fight, we don't go out and fight with the guy on each side of us. We go out and fight for the guy. And I don't know, like Band of Brothers, you just saw that. You saw the teamwork that goes into being a successful military unit. You saw the love for their team. So I've always been like a history guy, and so
Nice.
Band of Brothers to me just, I mean, again, being around West Point, the military people are the most humble people. Like what they've done, what they've seen, you would never know. Like when we were at Bosco a couple of weeks ago, they had a military panel, and
Yep.
our team doctor, I didn't even realize this, like Black Hawk Down, like he did 22 surgeries in 34 hours, Josh Richardson, but like they don't tell you. But so just so much respect for the men and women that wear, the uniform of our services. But Band of Brothers has always kind of been something I've watched and been like, wow, wow.
Nice. Awesome. Hey, and so Brian, I super inspired, right? Just talking to you. This was, just a couple guys talking about coaching today. So
Yeah.
you can only imagine if you're in front of a room with a prepared keynote, the impact that might have on an audience and would have with the inspiration, that conviction, that love, that caring, that, building that unit of one, all things that companies need, people need. If folks want to get in touch with you, they want to maybe exploit some of that greatness and some of that keynote content that you are sharing, you're going to share. What's the best way to get in touch with you, Brian?
Yeah, because you know, I talked to just not sports teams. Like I've talked to Chase, I've talked Chimenti Construction,
Yep.
because as I said at the start, Dan, like whatever you do, you're part of a team. Whatever you do, you are on a team. Even if somebody never played a sport growing up, well, whatever they're doing now, they are on a team, right? So I would love to, anytime I have the opportunity to talk about leadership and culture and be able to talk about TK and Heinz. I think that's where my passion comes from, because
Heck
I
yeah.
love my guys. Like I love my guys. And so, I mean, if people want to get in touch with me, my cell number is 914-490-5019, or my email, brian.riley 92 94 96 at gmail.com. And if I can help a team, I'm all in. So people can reach out to me at any time.
Excellent. And we'll bring you back for a future episode so you can share that website with them as well when that's up and
Yeah.
running.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome, Brian. I had fun. Thank you so much. I'm sure the audience is going to love this episode and hopefully be as inspired as I was today. Thanks
Well,
for joining.
Dan, no, it's great being on with you, and so much respect for what you do, coaching the coacher, right? Like that's when you can impact people's lives. It's such a positive thing, and so I could feel your passion when I met you at Don Bosco. So I look
Awesome.
forward to our friendship continuing to grow, and if I can ever be of any help to you or your listeners, you know where to find me, Dan.
Awesome, Brian. Well, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone.